As Western countries become increasingly broke and increasingly desperate, I think you will see, and we've been saying for years, politicians implementing new taxes, but not on everybody, at least not in countries like the United States. No, these taxes will be implemented only on the evil rich. The middle class will get further tax breaks. People who already pay the majority of the taxes will be hit with new taxes. I'm going to share with you 6 new taxes they might dream up that you need to be prepared for. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson, and here at Nomad Capitalist, we actually think being successful is a good thing, and that's why we help 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs and investors legally go where they're treated best with legal offshore tax planning, second passports to offer more options, to offer an insurance policy for your life and for your freedom, and new investments around the world. You can learn more at nomadcapitalist.com. I'm going to share with you 6 new taxes. Now, if you have one that you think I've missed, leave a comment below. I want to hear from you. Now, the first and perhaps most obvious tax that they will find a way to increase or perhaps change or add on to is the income tax. Now, of course, that's the easiest thing to do, is to say, hey, we're going to have a millionaire's surcharge, for example. So it's an income tax, but it only applies to millionaires. And you've seen states like California do that. I think Maryland and Virginia, I think, have done that. And who knows, they could do this anywhere in the world, right? If you're a millionaire, we're going to come after you with a new income tax. Another thing they can do is they can increase taxes that high earners pay on things like their pension. So in the U.S. Social Security program, I've talked about how Joe Biden's tax plan was to basically take the cap off Social Security, everything $400,000 and above. If you're self-employed, you're paying an extra 12.4% in income. That's an income tax, because your Social Security check when you retire is not going to be, $19,000 a month. It's still going to be, $2,000, $2,500. But you're going to be paying a lot more money into the system because the system is broke. They call it fairness. I call it welfare. So that's the first tax. The second tax that some people watching this have already seen and have already gotten away from is a wealth tax. You've seen in the United States, the state of California has talked about a wealth tax, where if you have too much money, we're going to tax you. Progressive politicians, not only in the U.S., but around the world, have said, let's put some kind of tax on assets to where if you're a billionaire, every year it's 4%. If you're over, 100 million, it's 2%, 50 million, 1%. And you know how this goes. Everyone can sit back and say, oh, it's only 50 million. I only have 10 million. What's the risk? Well, don't worry. Eventually it'll be 10 million, right? Just like when the United States started the income tax back in the 1910s, and it was 3%? Look at it now. So the numbers will only creep down. Scope creep will be an issue. Wealth tax will be something that you want to be aware of. And what's particularly concerning about this is I've talked to folks from Spain. And in Spain, they're looking to increase the wealth tax. And it could be an issue of you own a castle somewhere, or you own a forest, or you own some kind of real estate in the country. Any kind of asset that you're not renting out, it's not income generating. And they're going to come in and take a wealth tax on that regardless. Could be a bank account. You don't even earn any money in the bank. And they're going to come in and tax that. So there's really not going to be any way to escape it. It's not really a tax, it's really more asset confiscation. Now, the third kind of tax I think you should watch out for is any kind of tax that is retroactive. California talked about their wealth tax. We're going to go back 10 years, and if you left, you're still on our radar. We've already seen retroactive taxes in the United States in the federal tax code in recent years. Now perhaps it's the state's turn to do it. And so I think you're going to see both at the federal level, the state level, and again, in any country this can happen, you're going to see them going back. The UK, I've had people who have mentioned where they've done things one way, it was approved, and then later, you know what? We're going to change our mind. And it's not from today forward. It's not even, we're not going to give you any notice. It's, you know what? Go back the last 20 years and pay up. We don't like what we did. You play by the rules, but now the rules have changed. It's the mafia at work. Literally, this is what the mafia does. Retroactive taxes, that's number 3. Number 4 is pension taxes. This could be outright confiscation of your pension, of your retirement account. I've talked before, and I've attracted a lot of people who disagree with me. Why did I not put money into an IRA or a 401k when I lived in the United States? Well, I never had a job, so I didn't put money in a 401k for that reason. But why didn't I put my $5,000 a year in an individual retirement account, take the tax deduction. Well, number one, taxes are going to go up. So by the time I retire, I imagine income taxes will be higher, particularly if I have a lot of assets that are generating income. I'd like to be wealthier when I retire, not poorer the way that a lot of people plan for, where your tax rate will be lower because you're poorer. Like, that's a good thing. But I actually think that in some countries in Europe have actually experimented with this, but I actually think some countries might actually come and say, you know what? This is the last big basket of untaxed wealth. You have too much money. Remember Obama said nobody needs that much money in their IRA? I think it was about Mitt Romney. Nobody needs that much money. Well, what if you have too much money in that IRA? What if they decide to come, $500,000's enough. Whatever's above that, we'll take it, or we'll take half. They've done it with bank bail-ins. Again, they've tested it in some countries. We're just going to borrow your money. Or maybe they force you to put it into treasuries. That's a sort of tax. Right? Maybe they force you to put it into something that they want, for your protection, of course. That's something you should watch out for. Now, I also think, number 5, higher fees are certainly a tax. We've seen this with expatriating from the United States. It used to be free to renounce your citizenship. Then it was $450 because, they're so busy over there. They need to charge you a user fee. Listen, I'm all for user fees, so be it. Then that wasn't enough, so it became $2,350. There are literally people who moved to Canada, for example, or moved to the UK, not because they're rich fat cats, but because they're a professor at a university, and they just got a better job there, or they liked the weather, or whatever the case may be. And now they have a very complicated life because they're not only a taxpayer where they actually live, but they're a US taxpayer. And in some cases, the systems don't match up very nicely. And so they want to renounce, but they can't afford the $2,350 because they're not that wealthy. Even if they could afford the $2,350, perhaps they bought a house in 1987 in Vancouver. Just a nice little suburban house. That house could easily be worth enough on its own to trigger the $2 million exit tax requirement. And so higher fees, higher, or lower limits on things like exit tax, they make even where middle class people can't afford to get out. I think you might see higher fees on all kinds of other things that will make life more difficult, make life more expensive in Western countries. And the 6th form of tax, as countries increasingly become broke, as they increasingly devalue their currencies, as they increasingly adopt the interest rate policies, is simply inflation. And I think that's something that I've talked to a lot of folks who are maybe more reticent to leave their country, but they would like to have asset protection. They'd like to have bank accounts, investments, assets overseas, because they believe that their country is simply going to devalue the value of their currency. They're simply going to make their money more and more worthless. Perhaps some of them are using gold or silver or cryptocurrencies, but they want to have some money outside of the system. They realize that having money that's in some other country gives them a sovereign jurisdiction to rely on, outside of their home country to protect them. And so I think all these taxes are things that are going to be issues to deal with in the coming years. Now, some people will watch this and they'll say, it's pretty funny. There's a YouTube channel to help wealthy people protect their money. And you know what? Glad to do it. Because particularly in the Western world, but certainly all over the world, people work hard for their money. Politicians have made mistakes. They've driven the economy into the ground. They've handed out money like there was no tomorrow. And now they want you to pay the bill. Politically, if you're successful, you're an easy scapegoat. And there's going to be only more of that to come. I don't see a lot of demands from everyone to pay more, just more from you to pay more. Because there's a stereotype about successful people that somehow they're all doing shady stuff, or none of them deserve their money. And that's why these taxes, at least in the Western world, are going to be very easy to get through when the time is right. Those are 6 taxes I would be prepared for by diversifying internationally, having a second passport, having a safe place to go that's a second residence, perhaps owning a home in that country so that psychologically you feel more comfortable going there, having some money in foreign bank accounts or foreign currency denominated investments, making sure that your assets are safe. And if you have a business, consider moving part or all of it overseas where you are treated best. How can Nomad Capitalist help you? 4 ways. Number 1, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to make sure you get our new video every day. Number 2, Get a copy of Nomad Capitalist, the book. You'll learn a lot of my personal experiences over a dozen years of studying this stuff, as well as exactly some of the strategies that you can use to build your Nomad Capitalist plan. Number 3, if you're not sure where to start, but you want to come and learn from my team and I, you want to come and mingle with like-minded people, learn more about our live conference, Nomad Capitalist Live. It's coming up soon. And number 4, if you want some help right now because you've got a burning issue, you need something solved, you want to lower your taxes, get a second passport, or build the Nomad Capitalist lifestyle of your dreams, go to nomadcapitalist.com and click on Become a Client.